Hey guys, it's Joe and Michelle with VMP's live Wednesday. It's not Tuning Tuesday, it's not Burnout Box, it's just the live show that we'll do some of these Wednesdays for you guys. I don't think we've done one for the past 2 weeks.
Yeah,
2 weeks. Okay, so gave you guys some time to simmer, think of some questions, and for me to do stuff like be gone in Texas. Speaking of which, TX2K was fun. Alex covered it in his video yesterday, but there was a lot of cars blowing up and oil downs and cars breaking, a lot of that stuff out there. But overall, the event was fun. I enjoyed it.
Super jealous.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like a good time.
But let's see what we got for the initial thing here. All right, so we get a lot of questions, but as with most places, we get the facts, the frequently asked questions. So, what is the most common question you receive as a tuner, Michelle?
Ooh. How much horsepower is my build gonna make?
Yes, and that's one of the. I don't want to say it's annoying. It's frustrating.
Definitely
It's
frustrating.
like people don't qualify things correctly, and they
No.
don't. They usually don't give enough descriptive detail when they're asking that question.
What fuel are you gonna be on?
Yeah.
Oh,
Sometimes it's
what are the
before we're even
conditions?
tuning a car, it's just like a generic question. I have your blower, how much power am I going to make? And it's like, there's a few more things going on there than that. So I'd say that's definitely a common one. Common one I get. Probably pulley versus boost.
Oh yeah, that's a good
That's
one.
fairly common.
That's a good one.
Um,
Proprietary.
Your graph.
yeah.
There's a quick reference guide.
Yeah,
Helps a lot. It does.
it does. I feel like we need to make like a public version of that.
Agreed.
Like I know that won't save us for the people that won't even Google things, but it'll at least help with the people that are willing to do a little bit of independent research before they call someone or email or otherwise. So yeah, I'd say boost and the how much power is my car gonna make are
I have
definitely
another
the two
one.
most common. Hit me.
Where's my cargo lean when I decel, when I let off the
Oh
accelerator?
god, yep, that's a good one too. My car's going lean. What am I gonna do? So, for those that don't know, on a lot of modern Ford cars, they go into what's called decel fuel shutoff, decel fuel cutoff, where it shuts off the injectors on decel. So, if you get a new tune and you're looking at the AFR gauge because now you're worried about looking at what AFR is, and you're cruising down the road and you have it in gear and you just let out, expect it to go to 20 because it's shutting off fuel injectors. It's just pumping air at that point.
AFR all the way up.
Yeah, all the way up. All the air, none of the fuel.
None of the fuel.
All right. So with that, so we have as tuners, what's the most important question to answer in regards of tuning a car?
Oof. I have a lot of them. One of the main things I'm just like, please tell me what intake you have specifically and what injectors you have specifically, especially in these cars that we deal with.
Yeah, like especially like we'll call it like 96 to 2020 Ford Mustang. Like MAF is like 99% of what makes a car run right. In terms of if it's wrong, it's not gonna run right.
Nope.
So
Nothing.
what mass airflow sensor is in it and what housing it's in, whether that's a cold air intake or if it's like a 96 to 04 car, what physical housing it's in.
Super important. You can't just tell us random stuff. We need to know exactly.
Yeah, we need to know which MAF is in it, and then so MAF injectors and then power adder stuff at that point is what I would consider to be the most important stuff. And then like your secondary stuff is like your modifications, like on some cars that don't move the MAF, cold air intakes, the got the zip zap, the concerning zap, and then you get into like the really stuff that you really don't need to know about, like oil separator. Like we usually only need to know about that when we have when we see if there's a vacuum leak and it's like, oh,
tighten it up a little bit, guys.
Underhood engine bay photo. Let's see what's going on under there. And then trying to think of one that's not that necessary.
We don't need to know about your lowering springs.
No, no.
Although it's very cool. Cap back, mufflers, things like that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's cool to have that information should we need it, but we don't really need that to build the tune file per se. You got this one, Michelle.
How has working in the performance industry changed your perception of cars as a hobby? Do you still view it as a hobby, or is it like a career? I don't know. I always enjoyed cars. I kind of think they're cool, but I never had it as a super hobby. I wasn't out there building cars and racing them and stuff. So I definitely was at the car shows, checking them out, trying to learn about them, but can't ever say it was like a huge hobby of mine. Working in it has made it more of a hobby, I should say, actually, because now I just know so much more about it. So
now you're more curious about it.
Yeah, at the car shows, I know what I'm looking at, and I can discuss, and it's easier to have a hobby when you know what you're working with. So
I can see where you're coming from on that. For
Yeah.
me, it's kind of the opposite, where all I used to do when I got home from work was work on my car, my buddies' cars, or just like play around with cars or research cars and all that stuff. And then now it's like when I get home, I don't even want to look at cars anymore.
That's all I do all day long.
Yeah, I just want to, like, I don't know, make dinner and go to bed.
Don't even. We know. I
And
think
play
on
games.
PlayStation.
Yeah, play games. That's fun for me. That or do jet ski stuff other than cars. But I go to more car meets than I ever have. But I think that's more so the people I'm hanging out with actually go to car meets, and we actually have weekends where I can go to car meets, because previously it was like I was working all weekend, so I couldn't go do all the fun stuff that everyone else was doing. So now I'm making up for it.
I do it every day.
Let's hit a couple other questions and we'll bounce back over.
Okay.
So, all right, so this is going in order then. All right, so we're hitting YouTube first, kids. So if you got a question, try and get in there before I switch over. Still planning on running Chucky on a bigger nitrous shot. That is in the plans. I don't know when that's going to happen. We were talking about that a few weeks ago. And then Keon Cohen for starters. My GT500 makes 1025 981 from a 3.6 KB. My Hellcat Charger is now a wide body red eye Challenger making 850 plus.
Nice.
Now last week I bought a 19 10-speed 5-liter. Nice, man.
Super fun.
You'll like the 10-speed, that's for sure.
And
Larry Duran. Hey, Larry. How you doing?
Hi, Larry Duran.
Daniel Majano. Gen 2 Coyote Gen 3R on 93 octane. Is he playing off that thing that we complained about earlier? Because I feel like he is.
If
you're not,
super cool build guy.
Yeah. If not, then I hope you're not asking power numbers, because I cannot give you them based on that information. I need more info. Janssen 50, what tuning devices do you use to tune Gen 1 Mustang and F-150s? So most of the Gen 1 stuff is going to be SCT, but we can do some of it on HP. I shouldn't say some of it. We can technically do all of it on HP. It's just a matter of, for remote stuff, SCT is a bit easier for the Gen 1 stuff at this point. Sub-Zero 747. So excited to max out this 265 VMP Gen 3R.
That zip zap.
Caused by Whipple's hurt feelings after I put down 1200 horsepower in a built 4-valve motor running that beastly VMP classic. But I'm glad to hear that you're turning up the 265 Gen 3R.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure who Sub-Zero is, but
he's got a he's on Instagram. He's got a, correct me if I'm wrong, Sub-Zero, but it's a New Edge Coyote swap that he's working on. It's pretty cool.
Nice.
It's blue in color, if I'm not mistaken.
That would make sense with the Sub-Zero YouTube tag, but
nice.
Yeah, I'll check out your car, man. Jay Witt, what's up, homies? What's up, John?
Hi, Jonathan Whitaker.
I'm nothing.
Mustang Muscle 5.0 with the fuel swap kit. Does the jumper fits the harness for 11 to 14 or 15 to 21 Mustangs? So it technically fits both. The connector is the same. The only difference between the two is there's an offset key that you can cut off the connector to get it to work on both. But yeah, technically works on both. Do you want David?
Hi guys, I have a stock 2020 Shelby GT500, and my question is basic. I want to do mods slowly in steps over time. mainly because of warranty. Good idea, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Where's a good place to start? JLT cold air intake's on the way.
I'd say the JLT cold air intake's a good place to
First
start.
step, yeah.
Because it doesn't require a tune update on a 2020 GT500 since it's speed density, so it'll just make a little bit more power. I'd say from there, tuning is the next step.
Absolutely.
You recently asked about the 81mm. I believe that's the same guy who just commented on a video, our testing of the intercooler cores. And I just recently responded to him because we saw some boost drop, but he was concerned as to whether or not he would see any horsepower loss with that associated boost drop. I spoke with Justin about it and responded accordingly.
Oh, okay, that works. Then yeah, reference the response JD had left for you. And
Jay Witt's doing something over there.
yeah, so he's thinking about going with a single 7675 and Gen 2 swapped Coyote Fox. What pump injectors do you recommend for 700 wheel horsepower, pump gas 93? So like a single 465 should be good for that. And in terms of injectors, you could technically run 56s to get the 700 wheel, but they'd kind of be done not much further after that. But if all you plan on doing a 700 wheel and 93, then those two would get the job done. And you want TAV? Is that TAV?
I'm gonna say it's Tau.
Okay.
Tau. Hey, I'm looking to buy a single cab short bed F-150 5-liter and running the Odin supercharger kit. Do you think I should get a 2-wheel drive or 4-wheel drive, running on street or and strip, hoping for 10s?
If you ever have a dream of making a good pass on the street, 4-wheel drive. At least if you're doing dig stuff. If you're doing roll stuff, 2-wheel drive works fine. But the 4-wheel drive is king on the street. It'll basically turn your truck into a GTR.
Sometimes Joe knows all about it.
Yeah, exactly. So Jay Witt, these are recent developments. Yeah, I saw in the group chat. Sub-Zero 747.
So it's a new edge. Do the Texig build.
Ooh. GT500 heads, Mod 2K pistons, Oliver billet rods, Manly forged crank. SK Performance, awesome, man. So
I like them.
that must be the SK car. Is that no, because if it was blue, it wouldn't be the SK car, because that car is red, if I remember right.
No, he's just another guy who's building through SK.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice,
I work with
man.
them a lot. I like them. They're really nice.
Yeah, I was wrong. It's not
Oh,
the
okay.
car I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
Yeah, so build Cobra setup. It makes sense being Texid and whatnot, but the GT500 heads, if you're gonna be making big boosts, they do work. Yeah, very spicy. Keon Cohen. So far I haven't driven my red eye since I got my 10-speed. What do you expect for a full bolt-on 10-speed?
Horsepower limit, NA.
I wouldn't say there's necessarily a limit. And it really depends on what you classify full bolt-on as being, because like you can go in the engine and do cams and stuff and still classify that as a bolt-on. But if we're just talking about the easy stuff, and if it's auto, probably right at like 490, 500 wheel is like the easy stuff on E85. Anything more than that, you're gonna need like cams or going into the short block or going into the heads and stuff like that. Mustang Muscle 5.0. I know this may sound dumb, but how can I obtain the tool to make that fuel jumper fit my 17 Mustang? So there isn't a tool.
He's just talking about the boosters, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, well, he's talking about the
harness,
the tank drain kit. At least if this is the same guy from before.
But it uses the same connector as the boosters.
Yeah.
So you probably already have the tool to do that. You just need a razor blade.
Yeah, exactly. You just need a razor blade or a X-Acto knife or something of that effect to just cut the offset key off. It's made of plastic, so you literally, I think we have a video somewhere or some written instruction.
In our stage 2.
Every install video in regards to what to trim, but we do have the fuel swap kit. It's Tech Talk Saturday kind of deal with Matt on it.
Okay.
So just search fuel swap on our YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll get a whole video that goes through the process of how to do it, what the jumper's actually doing, so that you don't have any problems.
That's cool.
Okay,
Nice.
so I'll highlight this one so we know where we stopped, and we'll hop over here.
Okay.
So, all right, so trade shows, Pure Eye and SEMA, they weren't a thing last year. Are we looking forward to their return, and what's our favorite part about trade shows? So, I have mixed feelings. I like not going to events.
I love going to events.
But
so.
if there were events that were like cool from an industry side of things, PRI and SEMA are those events. Because they're like, SEMA's more like end user, retail customer, people walking around with like some industry peeps. And PRI is like the who's who of the industry is there. And it takes out a lot of the riffraff. So it's definitely a toss up for me because I like looking at cars and like the creativity of some people. So like SEMA's cooler for looking at cars, but PRI is more productive from like getting stuff done from a business standpoint.
I've never got to experience any of them yet, so I don't really have too much input. It's something I definitely want to do one day once I feel like I'm badass enough to be there.
Yeah, I feel like you could do both right now. It's PRI, it's a lot of like networking and like talking to people about like what we offer and like pricing and stuff like that. So
business to business elbow rubbing.
Yeah.
I went to both in 2019. I'll agree with you. You're looking at dope builds at SEMA, a little bit of business, but most of the time you're tied up in the booth or you're trying to entertain the crowd because it's 30,000 square feet. Well, it's more than 30,000 square feet. It's like hundreds of thousands of square feet of just people browsing what you offer, and more in consumer or friends of shops that got passes to come in. Whereas PRI was literally just like, hey, I'm owner of this company. Like,
tell me about yourself.
This is what I do,
and like you do get a little bit of the friends of people with a shop at PRI, but it's not to the same degree as SEMA. What's the most difficult or crazy thing you've diagnosed via logs?
Ooh.
And then it says, tell us the story.
Man, I should have read this like an hour ago to think about all of the things that I do every day.
I can do one.
Do one.
So craziest thing. It is a little tricky because there's a lot of like stupid stuff that happens that you wouldn't think people would be able to do, but they do.
Like switching widebands from bank to bank.
Yeah.
It's not crazy, but we see it pretty often, and it looks silly in the data logs. But it's not crazy. Math wash is kind of a silly thing to deal with when diagnosing remotely because
it's like, wait a minute.
We have no real way of seeing if it's actually math wash. We just kind of have to collect all of our data and think, like, hopefully
infer that based on what it's doing in this condition and based on what it's doing in this condition that it's most likely math wash. Yeah, that is kind of tricky because like I have a lot of like funny stories of stuff we've diagnosed, but I don't know that anything was like all that crazy. I had someone they plugged in their MAF sensor into the throttle.
Oh yeah.
Once upon a time.
Hey, my car just dies immediately.
Yeah, my car doesn't run right, and I'm getting these circuit codes. How did you do this?
Check your math.
Yeah, exactly. And then sent some engine bay photos, and I saw where his wiring was running. He had the wiring that should have been hooked up to the throttle body hooked up to the MAF, and I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, something's wrong here. I don't know.
I diagnosed a guy. It wasn't a log, but that guy who had filled up and got a half mile down the road, and the car wouldn't turn over anymore. And it ended up being a bunch of water in his tank from the gas station.
Yep.
That was a crazy diagnosis. I'm like, hey guy,
sketchy.
Something wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to drain it? And he was like, oh, sure enough, there was a bunch of water in my tank. Super sad. It still ran afterward.
I'll have to come back to that one later.
Right?
Once I think about some more stuff.
I'll unhighlight it.
Thank you.
Okay. And then we'll hit this one, and then we'll jump over to Facebook questions. So if you got a question and you're watching through Facebook, ask it now. I'll try and grab it when we hop over. What's the most common issue you run into, and how can our audience avoid it when preparing to tune their build? O2 sensors swap bank to bank. At least on we're talking like that usually happens on like 05 to 10.3 valves. Occasionally happens on Coyote, but not nearly as often. But I'd say that's a common one.
Putting those boo-boo O2 sensors in the 3 valves.
Oh, yes. So if you have a...
Your face was priceless.
Yeah, if you have a narrow band Mustang F-150, the OEM Ford sensors, I know that traditionally speaking, put Ford sensors in it is the best course of action. But like 3 years ago, Ford changed suppliers from NTK to Bosch on the factory O2 sensors. So if you put the Bosch sensors in your car, expect it to run poorly when cold, and expect it to run poorly on hot restart for like the first minute or two, depending on how
It took like
how long
4
the long
minutes
tubes
one
are.
time
Yeah,
for the O2s to start switching.
yeah. And then the easiest way to identify them is the NTK sensors have a really small body after the area where it mounts, where the 7/8 hex head is. The Bosches are like they're like probably 3/4 inch diameter right after the
Big old thick boys.
yeah, big old thick boys, and that also means they're big old slow boys. You want the thin, fast responding, fast heating up O2 sensors, and that's NTK.
We had someone in Chuff that had recently put new sensors in, and ever since then, when he started it up, it didn't run very well, and it would idle. I think idle was surging and things like that.
Yeah, it was,
and
you would complain about it. It would run bad, and then it would run okay, and then it would run bad again, and then it would run okay. And this was on a car that had been running on someone else's tune for like, I don't know how long it was, probably 4 or 5 years. And he's like, all of a sudden, it's just been running like crap. I was wondering if I could get a retune. It's like, wait.
We know something's wrong.
Yeah, something changed, so let's find out what actually is wrong, because the tune file didn't change. So then before we even tried to tune it, we're like, we'll just sell you a diag fee. We'll look at some data logs, see what's going on. And I'm like, Michelle, look at the O2 sensors and see if they switch. And sure enough, they weren't switching, and they took forever to heat up. And then when they finally did switch, it was kind of like they were just lazy.
Yep.
And then we put it up on the rack, saw that they were Bosch narrow bands, and I'm like, all right, let's get some NTK sensors in it. We put NTK sensors in it, and it was perfect.
Perfect. Within 10 seconds, CO2 sensors were swinging. It was doing what it needed to. Ran really nice. The guy was super impressed, and we weren't trying to sell him a tune. We said let's figure out what's wrong with the mechanical side of things, and if you still want to tune after that, that's okay. But
it's a lot of money that you don't necessarily have to spend.
It.
So if you have a narrowband car and you changed O2 sensors, and now it kind of runs like crap when it's cold, and then like crap after first few minutes of a hot restart, look there first, see if you have the big body O2 sensors. Remember that the diameter, yeah, exactly. Big body's boo-boo. That's a Bosch style sensor. Small body's NTK.
Take offense to this.
Hey, everything's relative, BB. There's bigger people out there.
It's true. It's true.
You aren't all that much bigger than I am.
Scale.
And Joe's not that much bigger than me, so
it's all relative, man.
Yeah.
All relative. All right, so we got. I said I was gonna go to Facebook, so let's go to Facebook.
Better drop the comments now. We're coming.
Minimize.
Boy, he coming.
All right. Austin says hola. Bobby
Hola.
Williams.
Bobby Williams. Joe for Prez 2024. I agree.
Is it my Abe Lincoln beard? Christy, you make my heart warm.
Can you tune my soul? Yes.
The marshmallow. I like it, Christy. So for those that don't know, Christy used to work for us.
She was a shipping lady. She was a
Oh,
big dog of shipping.
Yeah, see, Brian got it. Brian says hi, Christy.
Christy, you make the best baking goods, and we miss you very much.
Yeah.
Please bring us cookies.
And then
All of them.
so Tao, we already answered your question on YouTube. Dorian also answered your question. Dorian's a good resource on that.
Yeah.
He has he's on his, at least as far as I know, his third F-150. He had an 11 to 14 truck. He had a 15, 17 truck, and now he had an 18 truck, and now he has another 18 truck.
Nice.
What's up, Dorian? Good to see you. Yeah, he really came out like not bad in the grand scheme of like health after that.
Yeah.
Like he didn't do too bad. That was a pretty hard hit.
Yeah, I remember seeing the slow-mo over and over and over again when he released the video on that. I was like, damn, dude.
Your arm is made of rubber, dude.
Yeah.
It's fun to give hugs.
So much could have went a lot worse. I'm glad
so
to see
scary.
he's all right and kicking and got a truck.
Hell yeah. Zach Eck, 2017 GT. How much power can I get out of a 2.3 Roush MT82 car? Best run is 11.0 with stage 1 Roush tune. I want to get the car in the low 10s, high 9s. Any modifications you would recommend? So, hear me out. Trade in the Roush blower. Pick up a Gen 3.
And get a tune
Or Gen
from us.
3R.
You
Yeah.
Get rid of the Rush tune. You want our tune.
Although, if it's just going to be on pump gas, the Roush blower is just fine. Especially the Gen 2 Roush blower, which is the 15 to 17 blower. I think it's referred to as Mongoose internally in Roush. But
Wow, I did not know
that blower is actually pretty good if you're just going to be on pump gas. If you have aspirations of going E85 and turning boost up, which is kind of what you'll need to do to get in that 10.0 990 region, the Gen 3R is a much better bet for you.
Mm-hmm.
But with that being said, you can turn it up on E85 on the Roush blower. Still do pretty good. I'd say you'd be looking at like mid to low 10s, 9s, although possible with the Roush blower. It's going to be a bit harder to make the boost you need to do that, and it ultimately depends on weight and your driving ability and elevation, track conditions, all that stuff. But I'd consider trading the Roush blower for a Gen 3 if your ultimate goal is to go low 9s or low 10s, high 9s.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Oh no, Bluetooth drive shafts.
The SEMA conversation.
in reference to
Yeah.
SEMA stuff. Yeah, SEMA's gold for that stuff. And
I've never seen so much chewed up gum in my life. Joke.
I see what you did there. Justin Thal, how much horsepower do you think you will lose with Jesse Gen 2 cats? I don't think you'll lose any power from NA, at least if we're talking a pole not in cat protection and versus a pole with cats not in cat protection. Power should be the same. But when we're talking about when it's in cat protection, it's going to make a little bit less power in cat protection. So just keep that in mind. So if you're only going out and doing like 1 or 2 gear poles every now and then a car with cats is basically going to be making the same power as a car that doesn't have cats. But if you're going to go out roll racing people back to back to back to back, the cats will hurt performance a little bit, and not because the cat itself is a restriction, but just from the necessity to keep the cat cool with additional fuel, which causes it to make a tiny bit less power, which to some degree you can kind of make up for with being richer. You can usually add a little bit more timing, but it depends on the setup and how good the fuel quality is as to how much you can add and how much it actually does for you when you add it. You got this one?
Sure. You guys dyno tuned my car last year. He hasn't been able to enjoy it very much. He finally made it to SW for its Fun Day Sunday. He thinks the car is doing some trans-related weird stuff, and he logged the pass, and he wants to know if we can send it over to us.
Thank God he logged it.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for logging when you go to the track. Yeah, you can shoot it over to us.
Absolutely.
If you know who tuned the car, we can get you hooked up with whoever did that right off the bat. If you don't know, then just send us or open up a support ticket, send us in the data log, and then we will find out who did it and get you linked up with them to get whatever needs to be resolved. Another thing to keep in mind is that it's not always trans stuff. A lot of times there's some stupid stuff that people find with traction control that they don't run into on the street that sometimes they do on the track. But because you logged it, as long as you got all the parameters we need to see, we should be able to see exactly what's doing and figure it out for you.
Yeah. You can shoot it over to sales@vmpperformance.com if you didn't already have that email.
Yep,
I didn't know if you said it or not.
No, I didn't. So you got the cover on that. So when I cold start my Gen 1, so I think this was a guy asking about cats. So when I cold start my Gen 1 with Gen 2R on stainless works long tubes, it's loud unless I barely blip the throttle and it quiets down immediately. Normal or worth asking about? Normal, that's
long tube stuff?
Not necessarily. So that, I mean, it's loud because there's long tubes on it and different exhaust and stuff, because in stock form, they do the same thing with long tubes as they do without long tubes, which is a cold start spark retard to get the cats lit off. And when they're in that cold start spark retard and it's hovering like 0 to -5 degrees of timing, they're louder.
That's something. He also commented that it's an F-150
F-150 Coyote should be more specific. So yeah, that doesn't really change what's happening too much. It just changes what vehicle it's happening with. So yeah, I wouldn't say that's something to worry about. I'd say it's something that's normal. But if you have a concern about it, you're more than welcome to send a log in. We'll look at it.
Might be something we can tone down a little bit for you.
Yeah. Nick Sparks, SK Performance is in the house. What's up, man?
Hello.
Majid, hello, Joe. Hi, Majid.
Well, hello, Majid.
Majid.
Michelle.
Michelle's here too, Majid.
Gosh.
So, yeah, Justin talking about Dorian's arm. Yeah, dude, must be made of rubber or something, because I saw that thing bend at least like 30 degrees and it didn't break a bone. You're invincible, Dorian. Then we have Art. Will you take my Gen 2 VMP blower on trade for a 3R? Already on E85, just did a Gen 2 Coyote swap and 4 Innovations triple pump fuel system. So you'd have to get with sales to confirm whether or not we're still doing. You'd have to get with sales to confirm whether or not we're still doing trade-ins on the Gen 2s, Gen 2R blowers. I don't know if we are or not. We might be able to work something out. Just message sales or give us a call. I'd say that messaging is probably your better bet right now. That's another thing I should give you guys a heads up about. Our phones are working. The problem is they only work for the people we're on the phone with. So if it rings and then hangs up on you after like 15 seconds of ringing or whatever it may be, it's not that we don't want to answer. It's that we physically can't, because we're doing so many calls a day that it's dropping some of the overflow off. So your best bet for getting a phone call completed with us is going to be to email into sales with what exactly you're looking to accomplish. And it may be something that we can just handle online for you or send you an estimate for if you're looking for a quote on some parts. If not, we can get with the sales team and have someone give you a call back if necessary, or just shoot you an email back.
Fun fact, last week, peak 190 phone calls in one day.
And they usually do, I think Chuck said 60 in a day normally. So it's tripled our normal calls. So please be patient.
We did just hire another person for sales to handle support calls and sale calls and stuff like that. So keep in mind, we're not pushing the issue off. We're actively trying to make the issue better. The issue there being that we just have so much call volume right now, we can't really keep up, but we're making steps to improve that situation. So if you do need something, we will have some more people on hand here soon. But please be patient with the guys. They're trying.
They're trying hard.
Francois Parent, for track day, can I benefit from a second gear leave? And if so, do I need adjustments in file, F-150, two-wheel drive, third gen Odin? So if you're not spinning, I wouldn't say that second gear leave is going to help you. I recall your truck, and I really don't think you're making enough power. I'm not trying to say that in a mean way. I don't think you're making enough power for second gear leave to be of high benefit to you. To me, second gear leave is beneficial when you're making, like, we'll call it like over 900 wheel, or like right at that 850 wheel mark. Otherwise, first gear leave's fine on a 10 or 80.
You have to make enough power to overcome load change.
Yeah.
With the gear ratio there, all you're gonna do is bog the car if you do it too soon.
Yeah, like if you have a decent sized converter, you can get away with second gear leave on a mild setup. But if you're stock converter still, I'd say just stick with first gear leave for now, and when you turn it up some more, we can look into doing a second gear leave. Do you want Justin again, or
Sure.
what the next one?
I'm assuming he's referring to the cats. Cool. So no real negatives. It really didn't feel like it made any difference speed-wise when I added them. I beat them up regularly. Yeah, shouldn't really change too much. So
yeah, at least from a power standpoint, I'd say just be careful beating on cars with catalytic converters from a repetitive standpoint. Stock converters are generally a bit more durable from a beating them up standpoint from back-to-back poles, but the aftermarket cats do they do a good job of giving you the benefits of cats with a little bit more, I shouldn't say a little bit less restriction in the process. So
yeah. He's got the same cats that we tested on Justin Young's car.
Mm-hmm.
We did that video on there. Resilient in comparison to what we've seen in the past.
Yeah, like there's some lesser quality cats out there that won't survive 2 back-to-back dyno pulls, and then there's stuff like the Jesse cats that they'll live through some back-to-back stuff. I just say I wouldn't actively be abusive towards them. Be conscious of the fact that there's a cat there, and that cat protection will only do so much. Yeah. So with that said, we'll move on. Eric, awesome. Thanks, guys. I think it was Matt. I'll get the log over this evening. Awesome, man. So I don't think we covered this in a live thing, but Matt is basically on part-time contract work for us now. So we'll probably have either me, Mike, or Michelle look at your logs. We're basically just utilizing that for Dodge and Chevy stuff now on a part-time basis.
It's something any of us can get taken care of for you, so.
Yeah, exactly. And Justin Thal, phone PRI overload. People are feeling stimulated to buy. Accurate.
Yes.
Very accurate. Francois Parent, understand. Thanks.
Nice.
No problem, man. And then Justin Thal, I monitor temps with torque. It says bank 1, sensor 1 gets up to like maybe 1600 degrees usually. So, all right. So IAT2, although it has some relationship with exhaust temp and therefore cat temp, it's not a very high relationship. And if you're monitoring O2 sensor, well, technically not O2 sensor temp, it would technically be cat temp would be the thing you'd have to worry about, but there's no direct reading on catalyst temperature. It's all inferred modeling, and how close that reading of cat temperature is really depends on how close the model is. And then also the model doesn't really have a good way to accurately determine cat temp after multiple back-to-back pulls when you're changing like the thermal properties of the cat, whether it be the material that's used to make it or the like trying to think of the right wording for this. It's both like the material it's made of and then like the thermal mass of it in terms of like how much energy it can take before temperature starts rising, and then how much it rises, how quickly. And I'm trying to think it's the easiest way I can think to describe it. So like the model is not perfect and it's not a sensor reading. So don't bank on cat temp parameter being like the be all end all, because it's not absolutely accurate. It's just that an inferred model. It's only going to be as accurate as the data that's put in. And
Chad Dowd.
Fire away, homegirl.
Fixing to order some internal parts for the new build. See if Justin and I can't make 1300 wheel on this new setup.
I know if you want to get crazy enough with it, 1300 wheels not out of the realm of possibility on a Coyote-based engine with our blower. It's just, it takes a pretty serious setup to do that. All the sauce. We just released a video of Larry Duran's car, and I'd say in the grand scheme of builds from like a retail customer standpoint, he's definitely on the higher end of what you can do from a build standpoint. He's not quite up to that like Cobra Jet RGR race engine or L&M race engine where like the engine alone is like 40. Like I don't know what they're doing in there, but they do some gangster stuff.
His car is most definitely the gnarliest street car in regards to like power level, quality of build, part selection. Like that would be, I was surprised to see the number that car made, and very pleased to see the number that car made. But that is like street car max goals.
Yeah, like
further than that's gonna be straight up race car. Yeah,
for like a street 5-liter displacement engine, that thing makes a lot of power.
All the steam. Like
if you told, I don't want to isolate the LS boys, but if you told someone outside of the Coyote community and didn't really know anything about Coyotes that you had a 5-liter engine that's made 1200 on blower, they tell you you're lying.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole lot of air movement. That air pump is working.
Yeah. And then you get these, not to hate on these guys either, but the guys that'll pull up with like a 460 big block and they're like, yeah, it's got this guy's race engine, it should make 800 on pump gas, and you're like, this isn't going to work how you think it works, man. You put it on the dyno, it makes like 450, and it's like still really, really respectable, but it's like, yeah, it's It's not what you think it is. And then you pull up this Coyote that idles like stock right behind it, and it goes up on the dyno and it makes like 650. And they're like,
Wait a
minute. I got 2.5 more liters of displacement. What is happening?
yeah, well,
Your dyno's
why
wrong.
come this happen to me?
Yeah. Well, you're missing 3 points of compression.
Yep.
You're missing 30 years of efficiency, volumetric efficiency development in regards to engine design.
Yep.
Like,
It's crazy what's happened in the industry. But that being said, yeah, Larry's car is pretty serious. It's 1200 wheels, so to go 1300, basically like compression at that point and the cams that you put in it, and then just making sure the short block's good for it. But we'll hop back over to YouTube, answer a couple of those real quick. And where did mouse? There it is.
Where'd a mouse?
Where did mouse say it?
Whoa.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Where did we leave off?
We had
There it is.
Yeah.
All right, so Keon Cohen, E85 and pump gas. So E85 is going to be like that 490, 500 wheel range, and then pump gas is probably going to be like the 470, 450 range. Really depends on what's done to it. Poor boy, 313. I'm going from free-flowing exhaust to headers. Do I need a retune? Technically, you don't need a retune. The car will still start running drive, but I would get a tune update for headers. Derek M. On pump, no E85 near me. So what did Derek ask?
The Gen 3 16 GT.
Okay, he's the one I accidentally skipped because I had it highlighted. So
Sorry.
Gen 3 on a 2016 GT, what's the smallest pulley before I need to upgrade the fuel system? Currently on an 88. So, and then he was saying no E85 near me on pump. So I would say that if you're just on pump gas, that an 88 is really as small as I recommend. If you're going to be running like Boostain or something.
Hi, Chuck.
hey, friends.
Hola. Just dropping in to say hi. So that was Chuck, kids. But on so on pump gas, I wouldn't go much further than the 88. If you're gonna be running Boostain, you can go down to like an 85. I wouldn't go further than that. At least not if you're trying to have safe and pump gas in the same sentence.
Yeah, I'm more so wondering why he's going to upgrade the fuel system if he's going to stay on pump gas.
Yeah, it seems kind of silly at that point. The only upgrade I'd recommend to the fuel system if you're just going to stay on pump gas is a booster. Like it's cool to have the headroom, but if you don't need it, then why have it?
Tell Chad I'm sorry I accidentally hit the display button so they saw the questions.
Oh, okay.
My bad, y'all.
It's okay, Chad. You'll be fine. And then we have
Sub-Zero is just building through SK. He says they're a great shop. Good job, SK. Thank you.
awesome. Glad to hear about SK. Mustang Muscle, thanks guys. Dima and Dimitri, afternoon guys.
Afternoon.
What's up, killer? And then we have Sean. Have you ran a 28 11 5 17 bi-sply on a 10.5 inch wheel? It says max width is 10. I'd say you'd be fine running that on a 10.5 inch wide wheel. Janssen 50, I have 2015 Shelby F-150 that's stock 700 horsepower, looking to make more power. What parts would you upgrade? I only have pump 91 pump gas available with Boostain. Thanks. So
Maybe we should focus on the 700 horsepower stock.
yeah, I'd start there. So the Shelby F-150s that are rated at 700 horsepower, I find that most of those make like probably 520 wheel.
That 700 is to the crank.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll start there, and then looking to make more power. What parts would you upgrade? So
He's already got 91 in Boostain, so that's a good start.
yeah, if it's got the closed Whipple box, then I'd say go with like the cold air setup for the Whipple, and then get a tune. And I guess depending on when you bought the kit, it may have 72s or it may have 56s, and it may have a stock throttle body or it may have a 132. If you can give us more of those details, we can more accurately answer your question. I suggest sending that into sales@vmptuning.com and they'll forward it over to us. Keon Cohen. This might sound really stupid, but this past weekend I took my 14 GT500 to the track, ran an 891 at 173, but it started breaking up at top. What does that mean? I haven't told anyone. So it still runs and drives fine now, but does sound down on power. So I'd start with checking the plugs. Yeah, verify that your gap's good and verify that it doesn't look like any of the the plugs have experienced a lean condition or a detonation event. I'd imagine that if you're running those times, it's either on a race gas or a E85. And it's to me, it's unlikely that it's on a fuel. It's going to get detonation, at least to a high degree. But the other thing I would look into is making sure that your intercooler pump is working. If the intercooler pump isn't working, then your IAT2s are going to skyrocket. It's going to pull a bunch of timing out. Typically, that would hurt your trap speed. I don't know what your car normally traps, but I'd say based on that trap speed, it's more than likely that you have a little bit of spark blowout or something going on. But if you data log the car when you were at the track, I'd probably start with looking at that to see what it was doing. And if you weren't data logging the car when you went to track, this is case in point of why you should. Because right now you would have at least a general idea of what it was doing when it was going down the track, and it'd help you better diagnose or more quickly diagnose what you need to look at or what you need to change. And then Neil. What's up, player? And then we got Sup Team VMP waiting for my Odin Supercharger kit to restock. SN95 is too slow NA. Classic Neil.
Yay.
He's used to that blower life. Odin go good on
life too.
Yeah, exactly. And Odin would go good on that car though.
Yeah.
You got this one?
With the GT500 again. Do you guys tune for stock vehicles, no mods, rating 93 octane? Can you get more performance out of a stock setup with just a tune? Absolutely.
Yeah, that's actually one of the packages we have on the website too. Is a tune only package.
Yes, all the
So much more meat on the bone under the curve.
Especially if you're going to be running 91 or 93, which is technically the only fuel I'd recommend for one of those cars.
Yeah.
Preferably 93 if you have access to it, at least 91. I've heard of some people running 87 in those cars, and that's just silly. They need premium. Will they run? Yeah, they'll run, but
not
how to blow up your GT500.
For how long?
Yeah, exactly.
Tune on those are significant. First thing you should do, to be honest.
Yeah, and then after that, did he say what year?
No, he just said, I don't know. I don't think I've seen his name before.
No, it doesn't sound familiar. So if it's a 2011 up car, there's less to be gained with a tune than an 0709 car, but that's not to say that there's no gain at all. And then after a tune, I'd say a pulley, and if it's an 0709 car, probably a pulley and a cold air at the same time with the tune.
We have lots of packages.
Yeah, exactly. All sorts of stuff.
With the device, tuning, pulleys, everything.
And it's all on the website under the GT500 section, and I think it's under power packages. So yeah, I'd hit that up and see which one of those packages is going to end up being best for you. Trooper 50, hello everyone. I have a Odin base kit. Questions. 1, how much boost does a 92mm pulley give me opposed to an 88mm pulley? Also, I'm curious about your new fuel kit. So 92 versus 88, 1 PSI difference. A 92 is, I'll start here just so I can kind of qualify this answer. So if you're at sea level, these are the numbers I'm going to be quoting you. Sea level, the numbers I'm quoting you are also going to be at like 7,500 RPM. At 7,500 RPM, you'd be like 9.5 to 10.5 PSI with a 92. At 7,500 RPM at sea level, you're going to be around like 10.5 to 11.5 PSI on a 88. Yeah. And you're curious about the new fuel kit. If you do not plan on running E85 or pushing the car hard, the fuel system is not for you. You want me to display the things?
If you would like to.
You want to peep the things, everyone?
So if you are planning on running E85 or needing a big boy fuel system, I think JD was doing media photos with this most likely.
I filmed an entire video of breaking down the kit this morning.
Oh, nice. Yeah, so look forward to that coming out soon, kids. These are all assembled here in-house. They arrive to us not assembled, and they leave here assembled. With pumps, lines, all that stuff ready to, like JD said, ready to drop in. So
beautiful. Really nice.
I'll set it here. Now you guys can stare at it.
It blocks their view of you.
No, I have to put my beard over here for that to happen. Trooper 50, will I need to change belt size with the 92? No, the same belt would be able to be used between an 88 and a 92. You could technically go down belt size if you wanted, but it's not necessary at that boost level. Donnie B, the VMP, keep up the awesome work. We are gonna be sending more stuff your way soon, and I'm looking forward to a Gen 3R in the near future for my 13 GT.
Yay, Donnie!
Glad to hear,
Ron.
Donnie. I feel like they've come such a long way.
Yeah, we've been working with them for a long time.
Yeah.
And you know, you first start working with people, and you don't really know how their process works, and they don't know how our process works. And through our evolution of working with them, we're kind of on the same basis now.
I feel like they get it now.
Yeah.
And we get them. We get them. They get us.
We know how to work with you guys. So thanks for your patience learning about us, while we also learn about you guys. So that's cool.
Larry Davis. I have a 13 GT500, pretty much full bolt-on headers, exhaust, cold air intake, throttle body catch can, killer chiller, and 2 VMP booster pumps. What do I need in order to bolt on a Gen 3 265? Just curious. Injectors. And I mean, injectors are kind of dependent on what pulley you plan on running when you're putting the Gen 3 265 on. If you just plan on running around on 93, I'd say that a 2.8 upper is as aggressive as I would get. And the stock injectors would still technically be fine at that level, but they would be close. I'd say that you're better off in like one of our 1000cc injector options. Whether that be ID 1050s, DW 95s, or FICs. Any of those three would be a good option for you at that point. And who next? D-Man Dimitri. When the car looks stock, people don't expect what's coming. Yep.
It's always a good time.
So true.
Yeah. JD knows all about that.
Yep, looking stock.
I mean, no, he doesn't.
I don't know if Austin's still watching, but his car is stock exhaust and everything with the low key on it. It's fun on the streets in that car. It's fun on the streets.
I absolutely adore the fact that it doesn't even sound like a bolt-on car.
But that's not going to stop you from installing those headers, is it?
He's gonna miss it. He's gonna miss it.
Right now, my stuff whines. I sound like an 03 car.
The exhaust doesn't cover the sound of the whine yet.
No, Austin's car is the same way with stock exhaust. So we've got Scott in Sup VMP, no questions. Just wanted to say thanks again for all the work on my car. Everyone went above and beyond to get everything done. I'm the dude that drove down from Canada to get the Gen 3R in 2019. So that's Scott Norman.
He drove all the way back up there, didn't he?
Yeah, drove all the way back up there. I'm glad to hear you're enjoying the car, man. It was nice meeting you when you were down here. If you're in the neighborhood again, hopefully take a plane this time. But
yeah.
But yeah, hit us up if you're ever in the neighborhood again and want another tour of the shop of what it is lately. D-Man Dimitri shooting for 10s tonight. Ran 11-0 last time. I wish you luck.
I hope you do it.
You have
catalog it.
Yeah, you have the power there to do it.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of just figuring out the launch and everything out at OSW and just getting it down. Paul H. Thank you, Michelle, for the help with getting my 12.50 squared away. Car runs good now with the update. Awesome, man.
I wish I knew exactly which one that is, but I'm glad I got it taken care of for you. If you have any more further questions or concerns, let me know.
Then we got Shane. You want Shane?
Sure. Our stock headers manageable to have with a supercharger of any kind? At what horsepower range should become an issue or a major restriction?
So
I mean, stock headers, they're not.
So are we talking about 5-liter or GT500 or Cobra or New Edge GT?
I guess that is a good question to start with.
Yeah. So let's answer the question assuming he's talking about a 11 to 25 liter.
Okay.
So at what point do they become a big restriction? I would say around the 7-800 wheel level. Closer to the 800 wheel level is where putting some long tubes on definitely gets you a decent chunk of horsepower. Anything below that, I'd say that you're looking at less than 30 from headers, probably in most cases closer to 20. And I guess that kind of answers that question. Yeah, over 800, definitely think about some headers. Under 800, if you think the money involved with headers is worth
then the work
10 to 20 horsepower and the work, then I would say do it. If you don't think that's worth that, then don't do it. David, 93 all day. Thanks, guys. 2020. So
I think.
Oh, 2020 GT500.
500.
Okay.
And
So
93 octane. So yeah, running 93 octane on the 2020 GT500 with a tune.
yeah, we can pick up some power
Nice.
on that. It's not going to be tremendous, but there is some power to be had. And then now that HP's unlocked the trans side of things, there's some
That's
stuff
like
we
the
can do with the
coolest stuff
trans.
we can do.
Yeah, exactly. And you want Synspot?
Spot. He had an issue on a 2014 GT500 engine. He had to pull it apart to an issue. It has a built bottom end, 9.5 diamond pistons in it, and I was going to replace them with 10.5 diamond pistons.
Any issues you could be I assume you meant concerned about,
With
also
custom
has
cams.
custom L&M cams,
And looking at sleeving the engine.
and it also has a Gen 3R. This is like one of those never-ending questions. I'm glad that you gave us this information. Otherwise, we couldn't really answer it right. If you plan on running pump gas, 10.5 is pretty aggressive on a GT500. And I only say it's aggressive because most guys in GT500s are running like anywhere from 16 to 20 pounds on pump gas, and you can't do that on a 10.5 to 1 engine like you could with an 8.5 or 9.5 or 9 to 1 compression. So keep that in mind if you're running pump gas. If you're running E85, you're definitely going to be picking up some power or race gas. And I don't know if there's anything I'd be concerned about other than just you're bumping up compression. You're going to be limited to what you can do on pump gas.
Make sure you get that low vacuum bypass.
Oh yeah, with L&M cams, definitely put a low vacuum bypass.
That's not what you were
valve in.
asking, but I see cams and I see a supercharger and I'm like, uh-oh.
Low vacuum bypass. So the other thing we see, I'll say less common than our common frequently asked questions things, is I have a built engine with cams and your blower and it's only making 5 pounds of boost.
Well,
Do you have a low vacuum bypass valve? Yes. Did you hook the low vacuum bypass valve up to manifold boost reference? No. It's just hooked up to the back of the blower. Okay, do that and then come talk to me. And they'll pick up like 16, 17 pounds of boost and they'll be like, oh.
Wait a minute.
Okay. So
it's doing what it's supposed to.
For those that don't know, the low vacuum bypass valve needs to be manifold reference. What I mean by manifold reference is manifold absolute pressure. So that it sees vacuum and boost. The boost closes the valve and the vacuum opens the valve. Yeah, so make sure.
Good job, Synspot.
Awesome.
Good.
And then 93 in boostane.
Also running 85.
So on 93 in boostane, I would still probably try to be around the 16 to 18 PSI mark. I wouldn't go above that. I'd probably try and stay closer to 16. So just make sure that whatever lower pulley you put on the car, you're actually going to be able to slow the blower down enough to where it's going to be safe on pump gas when you have to swap it. And then the bypass valve. So if we'll take a quick glance at Facebook, and if everything looks good, then we will get out of here.
It's 3:10.
Yeah.
We had some good questions today. Had to go a little overboard.
Yeah, we just, out here doing the Lord's work.
The dang thing.
Yeah.
Mario Toledo.
Do I need a fuel system to run MS-109? I already have ID-1000s and booster pumps. So it depends on the boost you're running. MS-109 does require more fuel than a standard pump fuel and more fuel than just actually standard gasoline with no 10% ethanol mixed in. So yeah, it ultimately depends on how much boost you're running. I'd say if you're running over like 15 pounds on a gasoline-based fuel or like a MS-109, I'd consider putting a fuel system in the car just because you'll start to see rail pressure drop with that increased boost level on the stock pump with a booster pump. And Cat Killer, how's it going, y'all? Cat Killer is 1100 horsepower, 973 wheel horsepower, 803 torque. Awesome, man.
That's big boy power.
Yeah, that's big boy.
Big boy.
Taylor Pierce, ready to get an Odin on my GT350R. That'd be awesome, man.
It's SK and
Yeah.
350 over there.
Yep. I think they've already done one in house that had a lot of power.
All the sauce.
All the sauce. Sean Schaefer. I have a 2.3 Roush 72 millimeter with lethal 4 L2 fuel system with ID 1050X injectors. E85 currently making 757. Can't decide on the Gen 3R or Gen 3R. Also, what pulley size to limit power to no more than 850? Is the Gen 3R too much blower? So I wouldn't say that the Gen 3R is too much blower. You just change which pulley you run versus a Roush blower. In terms of power, Gen 3 versus Gen 3R, Gen 3R at higher boost levels is going to make a bit more power, but again, if you're buying I guess it depends on whether or not you're buying a new blower or like a used Gen 3. If you're buying a used Gen 3, it depends on what you're getting the Gen 3 for, but there's still a lot of value there compared to the Roush 2.3. But I'd say if you're looking at blowers that are within $500 of each other, just get the Gen 3R. It's going to make more power with less stress than the Gen 3 does.
Efficiency.
Yeah, efficiency is a bit better in the Gen 3R. And what pulley size for 850 wheel horsepower? I would stick with like an 82 or a 79 if you're trying to keep it under, like close to 850, but still under 850. Preferably an 82. And this is all assuming that you're on a stock size lower pulley. And then
Ken Reed.
Yep, Ken Reed. Fire away, Michelle.
What would it take to switch to E85? He's got an 04 Mustang Cobra. It's making 670 horsepower and 654 torque at the wheels on 93 and Torco. He's got a Gen 2 with the GT500 throttle body, 3-inch upper, 4-pound lower, GLT ram air, BA 3000, Ford Racing 80s, and a fuel system. Injectors, really, right? I mean, he's got
he
headers.
can technically run E85 to some degree on the 80s. They'll probably be maxed out at 20 pounds of boost, so we'd have to move into like 1,000 cc injector to turn up boost any higher than it's already at. But the thing I want to lay out right now is that if you're also asking if he's also asking if we will tune it, we will not tune a car with 80s.
No.
But if you're having someone else tune it, that's between you and them. I don't like 80s, but some people they're of the mentality of, well, it runs. All right, cool.
Does it run right?
No. Well, I've been running these injectors for 5 years and my car's been fine. Has it though?
How do you know?
Has it? On E85, granted, on E85, the 80s do better at idle than they do on pump gas. So if you were going to run an 80-pound injector, E85 is the right fuel to do it with because it kind of helps out that low injector pulse width issue they have, or characteristic, I should say.
But I mean, otherwise, he has a setup.
Yeah, I mean, everything else is really there. The level 3 fuel system covers you, the MAF, the pulleys, all that stuff. I'd say that your boost number sounds a tiny bit low for a 3.0 and a 4-pound.
Yeah, 20 pounds.
I don't know if you're at some sort of elevation or if that was due to some sort of intake restriction, but you have the GT500 throttle body and the JLT ram air, and that isn't really a restrictive setup per se. So yeah, from a can you do it standpoint, you can do it on 80s, but just keep in mind at 20 pounds, you're going to be very close to maxing them out or at the point where you're maxing them out. Definitely run fuel pressure, base pressure at 55 if you're going to want any chance of those injectors working at that level. And Jim Roberts, truck runs good, thanks, no problem. And then...
And you said 1050, maybe ID 1050s because they're stainless?
Yeah, they're talking about 1050s because they're stainless. That is a good quality to look for when you're talking about a car that's going to be running on E85, but I wouldn't say that it's an absolute you need to do this or the car won't run type thing because it'll still run and drive. All right, this will be the last one. Jared, is that Jared Lee Cavazos?
No, it would be Cavazos.
Okay. I'm ready to get my Gen 3R secret sauce put on here soon. Best blower I ever had. Awesome. Glad to hear, man.
Big boy blowers.
With that, we're 15 minutes over what we would typically do. We gave you guys the bonus since we missed 2 episodes for you. But with that being said, yeah, we'll just get out of here for now. It was good. It's good to be back. If you guys have any other questions or things you think of that you need answered before we possibly do a show next week, like I said earlier in the cast, the phones are quite a bit busy right now. If you have something that needs answered quickly, you can give the phones a shot, but we've been so busy, you may get a busy line or it may hang up on you on its own. I can't guarantee a result there, but if you email us, I can guarantee you that we will respond to the question and get you the answer you need, whether that's via phone call or via email. But until then, we'll see you guys next week, or maybe the week after that.
See you soon.
Bye, guys.